Live. Engagement ceremony of Yoona and Lee Jun-ho with both families leaves fans in tears of joy. In the glamorous, fast-paced world of K-drama and K-pop, there are moments that feel scripted, moments that feel carefully staged for the cameras, as though taken straight from the silver screen. But tonight, what unfolded was no drama, no fantasy, no illusion. It was real, it was raw, and it was beautiful. Because the world has just witnessed the live engagement ceremony of two of Korea's brightest stars, Yoona and Lee Jun-ho. And with both families present, with traditions honored, with emotions running higher than anyone could have imagined, fans across the globe found themselves weeping tears of joy. The ceremony began quietly.
No flashing lights.
No screaming fans. Just the soft glow of lanterns, the gentle strum of classical instruments, and the warm laughter of family members arriving one by one to a private hall decorated in breathtaking elegance. The theme was timeless, a blend of modern sophistication and traditional Korean beauty. White and blush flowers lined the aisle. Delicate silk drapes hung from the ceiling, catching the golden glow of chandeliers. And at the center stood a table set with symbolic gifts, fruits for prosperity, rice cakes for harmony, wine for unity, and embroidered cloths passed down from generations. When Yoona entered the room, the silence was immediate. She was radiant, not in the dazzling way of a celebrity, but in the quiet, almost fragile glow of a woman in love. Her hanbok shimmered softly, pale ivory with touches of pastel pink, her hair tied neatly, her smile trembling as though she could barely contain the flood of emotion within her. On the other side of the hall, Lee Jun-ho stood waiting. His hanbok, a deep navy with embroidered silver, carried the dignity of tradition and the pride of a man who knew the significance of this day. But it was his eyes that revealed the truth. They never left Yoona. Not for a single moment. And then the moment came. With both families seated, parents, siblings, relatives gathered together in a circle of love, the formal introductions began. Words were exchanged. Laughter filled the air. Tears fell as mothers on both sides spoke of watching their children grow into stars, yet still longing for them to find true happiness beyond the cameras. And as Yoona's mother gently placed her hand on Jun-ho's, whispering, "She's yours now, protect her always," even the cameramen caught themselves wiping their eyes. The engagement rings followed. Unlike the flashy diamond spectacles of the entertainment world, these rings were simple, elegant, and deeply personal. Jun-ho slid a delicate band of platinum onto Yoona's finger, his hands trembling, his lips trembling too as he whispered something only she could hear. Her eyes widened. She covered her mouth with her free hand as tears spilled across her cheeks. When it was her turn, Yoona placed the matching band on Jun-ho's hand, her own voice breaking as she whispered, "From now on, I'm yours." The room erupted. Applause, cheers, the sound of family members crying openly, overcome by the raw honesty of the moment. And outside the hall, where a live broadcast was streaming to fans around the world, the reaction was immediate and overwhelming. On Twitter, hashtags like Yoona Jun-ho engagement and Forever Our Couple trended globally. Fans who had followed their on-screen chemistry for years now saw the fairy tale become reality, their long-guarded hope finally taking shape before their eyes. Comments flooded in. "She's glowing like never before." "Jun-ho's eyes never leave her. This is real love." Years of waiting, and it was worth every second. And for once, the online world was united not in debate, not in rumor, but in joy. The highlight came when both fathers stood. With solemnity and pride, they raised their glasses together and spoke words that will be remembered forever. From today forward, these two families become one. And from today forward, these two hearts belong to each other. The toast rang through the hall like a blessing. Yoona wept openly in her father's embrace. Jun-ho bowed deeply to Yoona's parents, his voice trembling as he said, "I promise with my life to keep her happy." And as the ceremony ended, as the families joined in laughter and quiet celebration, Jun-ho reached for Yoona's hand once more. He looked at her not as a co-star, not as an idol, not as the nation's sweetheart, but as the woman he had chosen for forever. And she, with tears in her eyes, looked back at him the same way.
For fans, it was not just a ceremony.
It was not just an engagement. It was the culmination of years of whispers, of chemistry too powerful to ignore, of prayers spoken in secret corners of the fandom. Tonight, those prayers were answered. The world celebrates with Yoona and Lee Jun-ho. Outside the elegant hall where the engagement unfolded, the atmosphere was something the world had rarely seen before. Thousands of fans had gathered, not to scream or push or clamor for autographs, but to stand quietly, lovingly, in solidarity. Large screens had been set up outside, broadcasting the live feed of the ceremony to the public. Some fans held white lilies. Others carried banners painted with phrases like "Forever with Yoona and Jun-ho" and "Two Hearts, One Story." The streets were lined with candlelight, flickering against the night sky as if the entire city had conspired to mirror the warmth of the moment inside. When Yoona first appeared on screen, radiant in her ivory hanbok, the crowd gasped in unison. People clutched their chests, tears streaming as though they were watching a beloved sister walk into her future. When Jun-ho slipped the ring onto her hand, the crowd erupted into applause and sobs all at once. Some fell into the arms of strangers, united by a love for a couple who had unknowingly brought them together. One fan, interviewed live by reporters, said through tears, "We grew up with them. We watched their dramas. We listened to their songs. They've been part of our lives for years. And now, seeing them find happiness with each other, it feels like watching family." Another whispered, her voice trembling, "This is more beautiful than any K-drama. Because it's real." After the formal vows, after the rings, came the quiet moments when the cameras softened and the families mingled. Yoona's mother embraced Jun-ho as though he were her own son. Jun-ho's father, known for his stoic presence, was caught with tears in his eyes as he clasped Yoona's hand and whispered something that made her bow deeply in gratitude. At one point, a video captured Yoona's younger relatives tugging at Jun-ho's sleeve, calling him Appa with giggles of joy, as though already welcoming him as part of their world. His laughter, warm and unguarded, filled the hall, and for a moment it felt less like a celebrity engagement and more like an ordinary family finally becoming whole. And then the couple themselves stepped forward. Hand in hand, trembling but radiant, they addressed both families and the small circle of close friends present. Yoona's voice cracked as she said, "Thank you for believing in us. Thank you for protecting us. We promise to build a life of love, trust, and joy, not just for ourselves, but for everyone who has supported us." Jun-ho's voice followed, deeper, steadier, but no less emotional. "I loved her first as a colleague, then as a friend, then as someone who inspired me every day. Today, I promise not just to love her, but to honor her for the rest of my life." The hall fell silent. And then, softly, Yoona leaned her head against his shoulder as he squeezed her hand, and the families broke into applause. Outside, the fans watching on screens erupted again, their cheers echoing through the city like thunder. Tears streamed down faces. Strangers hugged. Couples looked at each other with renewed love, whispering, "That could be us." Even across the ocean, fans gathered in their own cities. In Tokyo, giant billboards replayed the live feed, drawing crowds that stood for hours in the cold, singing SNSD songs and 2 p.m. hits in tribute to the love story. In Manila, thousands filled a park, lighting lanterns into the night sky with messages like, "Congratulations Yoona and Jun-ho." In Los Angeles, Korean diaspora fans gathered in Koreatown, setting up impromptu viewing parties, crying and laughing as though they had just witnessed their own siblings' engagement. It was not just a Korean event. It had become a global celebration. And then the moment that broke the world completely. As the ceremony ended, Yoona and Jun-ho stepped outside the hall together, hand in hand, to greet the fans waiting beyond the gates. They did not rush. They did not wave mechanically. They walked slowly, smiling through tears, bowing deeply as if to say, "This happiness belongs not just to us, but to you, too." When they reached the microphone, Yuna's voice shook as she said, "We didn't expect so many of you to be here tonight. But looking at you, we understand that we are not alone. Thank you for waiting, for believing, for standing with us." It was history. It was love, pure, undeniable, unshakable love, shared with the world. And for the millions who watched, cried, and celebrated together, one truth now burns brighter than ever before. Their story has only just begun.